Hi everybody, this is Venti Hristova from Cantina Creative. I am a designer and VFX supervisor here at the company, and I will be taking today to talk about developing, designing, and executing OnSet graphics. We were hired to do OnSet graphics for Mockingjay Part 1, and OnSet graphics are very successful as background noise. Most clients, when they ask for background graphics, they want to use them as the information that never really makes it to any hero shots. And those same clients then turn the monitors that they need to be hero screens, blue screen or green screen, for post. I think a good place to start is OnSet graphics means we actually are given an entire environment prior to even shooting, and we're asked by the art department and the production designer to create an aesthetic in order to help populate the environment prior to shooting. It's a really wonderful and highly challenging task, but on Hunger Games in particular, when we went into our initial meeting, we were asked to develop a language for an entire protocol within a world that was District 13. District 13 is a new environment, and so we didn't have to have continuity based on the previous movies. We could develop an entirely unique vision based on the art department's design aesthetic. We were given an entire portfolio of images that they had done in the art department with different environments and the general look and feel, and then we took that and interpolated it to create graphics. The environment we were hired to do first and foremost was the command center. We were given the general aesthetic, we were told what their military design was, and a really big point about initial design when it comes to OnSet graphics is making sure that they all belong to the same world. District 13, it doesn't have a lot of flashy animation, it doesn't have a lot of incredibly sexy graphics. This is more of a almost Soviet realism, Bauhaus, militia, vectors, solid shapes, angular design, and limited in the amount of mobility and motion within the graphics. What we did to begin this whole thing was take concept art from the art department and superimpose very basic shapes just to get a feel for the color palette and the shape language. Once the production designer approved, he approved amber, which is a really beautiful color palette. After that, we went ahead and developed all of the different screens. I'd say we probably developed anywhere between 50 and 60 different graphics, and each one of them was created in an aspect ratio to suit the variety of different monitors on set. In this movie, the screens were all a variety of sizes. We had anything from old school Russian, Soviet monitors as far as the housing, and then the screens inside were tiny, all the way to huge plasma screens. So we needed to create enough variety in our size of our graphics in order to account for all of the differences. So each one of those graphics then had a 150 to 300 frame loop. The animation had to be seamless. It didn't need too much motion, but just enough so that when it's in the background and it's out of focus, you know that it's alive and it's kicking, but it's not trying to deter from the actors. You are not a VFX artist anymore. You're actually part of production design. You're creating a set, and you're helping the production designer's vision in order to accentuate all of the colors and the mood and the lighting and the flashing and the chaos of an environment. So either you're working with a very controlled, quiet environment, or a command center, which is typically a very active environment, but there's a level of haphazard and erratic behavior that has to be present. And that's difficult to do when you're doing a 150 frame loop of a background graphic. On top of the fact that as designers, we typically want to make things very slick and thin lines and beautiful tiny little numbers and small increments of graphics that are expanding and collapsing. With background graphics, think of it as a crude art. Your line, if it was a 1-point line, it is now going to be 10 points, because when there's a screen that is 20 feet from the camera, you're never going to see that. It disappears, it vanishes on the screen. There's a lot of things that make background graphics seem not very sexy when viewed up close, but when seen in their complete environment, they suit that environment perfectly. As far as going on set, which is the next stage, I went in with the production designer, fed all of the graphics into the monitors, the variety of monitors, and we walked through and assessed which monitors go where, which graphics are better suited in which locations. Do things need to be adjusted? Do animations need to be sped up, slowed down? Do colors need to be adjusted? There were a lot of limitations that we had to work with once I was on location. Some of them had to do with the lighting on set, some of them had to do with the angles of the monitors or the innate color of the monitor screens themselves and how it was affecting the graphics. The amount of potential unknowns is ginormous. After the background graphics, we then move into interactive graphics on set. I considered those story-specific graphics that have transitional animation that need to be triggered in order for them to activate on cue with the actor's performance. What's really important is that in order to create interactive graphics on set, it's a one-on-one play with the script. So you're hoping that nobody's going to change the script, and you decipher when it is that transitions need to be made. You anticipate that the actors cannot be controlled as far as how they deliver lines, so they might hold longer or shorter depending on what their performance entails. So what we did was, for every single beat, we created individual loops. And then between each individual loop, we created a transition animation. For example, we worked on a sequence called the Level 40 bunker, where all of the characters are evacuated because the District 13 is under attack. And when they go into this bunker, President Coin has her own small, mini command center down there. I'd say there were about 20 monitors, but every single one of them was story specific. Every single one of them had to have multiple beats, because during the sequence, not only are they being attacked, so some of the monitors had maps that were showing our airspace being invaded by the enemy, helicopters, no, it's hovercrafts, yep, definitely hovercrafts. And then showing that our oxygen was being depleted, or where there was damage and where there wasn't. So every single one of those screens was a specific story moment. In order to achieve that, we had to create individual loops of every beat, and then in between those loops, we had to create seamless transitions that could be cued on a dialogue beat in the script. So there was me reading the script, anticipating the cues prior to even developing the animation. As far as on-set graphics go, it's really important to understand that it's just another prop. It should not be a hero. So it's wonderful when you get to have yet another prop in another shot. There was a hospital environment where our graphics were actually incredibly successful. I think that might be my favorite environment. We had a laboratory with all of our graphics, and across the board, our experience on this movie was fantastic. For me, being on set was a novel experience, and there were hard days, but for the most part, it was just absolutely rewarding. So thank you guys for listening and for watching. Check out more of our awesome videos at cantinacreative.com.